Yes, and we compare our favorite blends.
We're not allowed to tell you what we don't like, but you'll find it at all your local restaurants.
And supermarkets. Hey, we've got to talk about Frisco Kid because that's why we're here in Los Angeles. And I so identify with that rabbi, the character you play, because he is a bumbler. He knows up and down, maybe, but he doesn't know left and right and north and south, gets lost probably in his own backyard. I identify with that guy.
Good. I was just explaining to someone shortly before we started that for me, the secret to a film success is if the audience identifies with the hero or the heroine, a transference, that they suddenly are not just watching that character, but they're watching themselves inside that character and wondering how they're going to come out. And the curious thing is that if the hero is a man, it doesn't mean that the men are the only ones who can identify. The women can identify with a man, and I can identify with a woman. If it's a woman's story, that it's not, gender doesn't influence it that way. It's more the emotional makeup. You either identify or you don't. So I understand what you're saying.
Is there a bit of the bumbler in Gene Wilder?
Oh, that's a good question. I have never been asked that before, and I want to give you, within the framework of the time we're allowed, as deep an answer as I can. There is my mother in me, and there's my father in me. The mother in me is not a bumbler at all, and the director in me and the writer is not a bumbler. My father in me, from whom I think I derive most of the qualities that you see on the screen, not what made me want to be an actor, that's my mother, but the basic naivete, the innocence, I think that's my father. I wouldn't call him a bumbler, but I would say that there was something so naive about him that a stranger could say that he was a klutz or a boob, a schlemiel, something like that, if they didn't know him, because he was so innocent that people couldn't believe that anyone could be that innocent. But not a bumbler. But I think that what you're talking about, that quality, is inside of me, yes, and it comes out in different ways. If I have to really stand up to 5,000 people and do something, I'm not a bumbler in that. But just walking down the street, someone can come up and I can start to be nervous, and I say the wrong thing, I say the wrong name. Bumbling in that way, yes. It's funny what would set it off and what wouldn't.
You originally were Jerry Silberman.
Yes, and I think there's somewhere inside he's still there, lurking around.
When did you become Gene Wilder, and why Gene Wilder and not Jerry Smith or something?
I became Gene Wilder at 4:26 last Wednesday, I think it was. I became Gene Wilder when I had to pick a professional name overnight, because I was accepted into the Actors Studio in New York and got my first part off Broadway at the same time. So I knew that, at that time I was Jerry Silberman, I knew that whatever I would be introduced as in the Actors Studio and what it would say on the program in my first New York production, that's what I was going to be. I didn't want to have to change names halfway through my career. And in those days I couldn't picture Jerry Silberman in Hamlet. There was a ring to it. Something was wrong somewhere. So I knew I wanted a name that had either 2 syllables and 2 syllables for the first name and last name, or 1 and 2, or 2 and 1. Don't ask me why. I had figured that out. Marlon Brando. James Dean. 1 and 1. I would have accepted that, except I figured I was a 2 and 1 or a 1 and 2. But not 3. I didn't want anything that complicated. So Eugene I didn't want, but Gene I did. Number 1, because Thomas Wolfe's leading character was usually Eugene, but the people who loved him called him Gene, and I loved that. So for that reason. And Wilder, only because I think because of Thornton Wilder, I loved the name so much. I said, I can be objective about this. That's one of the most beautiful names I've ever seen in my life. And I've got a choice. There's no other Wilder. There's no other Gene Wilder listed with the Screen Actors Guild or Equity, so I can pick it. And that's how it came about.
Gene, in talking yesterday with Andrew Bergman about the in-laws, and he wrote Blazing Saddles, and you were Blazing Saddles, he said something I found very interesting, and that is that Mel Brooks' off-the-wall kind of interpretation of a screenplay. And he says he doesn't want to go back to that ever. You know, he wants his screenplay to be presented as he writes it. And it set me to thinking about, is Mel Brooks' off-the-wall kind of comedy a thing of the past?
The answer in a word is no. The relationship, I don't know Andy. I think I met with him once. But an author's relationship with a director is very special. He doesn't want to have his work done as Mel Brooks's work, and I understand that. Why Mel will always be timely is because Mel reflects what all of us are thinking, but very rarely say. And that's why it is literally off the wall. He doesn't know it himself when he starts out. He's a shotgun blast. He goes for the target over there, for the bullseye. Some hit the barn behind him. Some hit on the sides. Some break the glass of the windows next door. But 10 of them go right into the bullseye. And it's for those 10 that we pay money to see him. And that's why he'll always be timely, unless his imagination dries up or he gets afraid. And I don't think that's ever going to happen to him.
You want to work with him again?
He is one of the closest people I know in life, and I mostly want to see him and kiss him again, because we hug and kiss a lot. Yes, we are men, and yes, we do, and yes, we both have women in our lives. But I like to hug him and kiss him as I do Carl Reiner and Dom DeLuise and everything else. Second of all, I want to work with him again, and he wants to work with me again. But first of all, we want to just be friends.
Well, I'll just say that, you know, that's the way I feel about you, Gene. I just love to hug you and kiss you every time.
What are you doing over there? Why aren't you sitting right here where we can get down to business?
Gene, as always, such a delight. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And cut.